Hello and welcome to the second installment of the KUMU Battery live webcast. This is part of our online marching percussion instructional series, and if you haven't checked out part one, I highly recommend you do so after this webcast. We go over basic fundamentals, basic strokes, heights. We even dabble into both our single height exercise and our double height exercise. So definitely check that out. But today we're going to be going over our packet. We're going to go over different exercises and some of the tips and tricks in performing some of this stuff, okay? My name's Matt Urquhart. I'm the co-caption head and battery arranger, and with me today is a very good friend of mine, Danny Mark. He is the co-caption head and front ensemble arranger for Kutztown University Marching Unit. So we're really excited to be here, and we're really excited to get on with the season. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Get your sticks and pad ready. Get behind a stand. I highly recommend a tall stand to stand behind. And let's have at it. Let's get up Legato legatos, which is our legato stroke exercise. We'll use it as a quick little warm-up, and then we'll review some of the pointers. All right, and here we go. We're going to be playing legatos at 90 BPM to start off, and here we go. Let's go ahead and do that again. Cool. So I'd like to take a moment to review some of the stuff in here. We had talked about last time that legatos is our single stroke exercise, right? So every note, every eighth note should be played at an identical height. Hopefully that was close to an identical height. I haven't really been practicing, but hopefully you are. Just as a quick review of our heights, I'd like to take a moment and say that our playing position is the position where our sticks are at rest. We're ready to play, okay? And both sticks are in a downward motion, so the bead is actually below the butt end, okay? So as a quick review, 3, we're suddenly parallel to the drum head, all right? As 6, the bead is now above the back end. 9 is a little higher, in between 6 and 12. 12 is a little higher, and it's not quite vertical, but almost there. And then 15, we're perpendicular to the ground. All right, so some serious landmarks in here. 15 is an easy one. You're either perpendicular to the ground or you're not. All right, 3 is an easy one because you're parallel to the ground, and then you kind of emphasize some heights in there. They're all corresponded to different heights. I think we have a height chart that maybe we can put on right now. And in this height chart, you can see all the varying degrees of dynamics associated with those heights. Okay, so Legato legatos is really meant to be played at all heights, sometimes depending on speed, sometimes not. We also talked about upstrokes and downstrokes in our last session, so I highly recommend you take a look at that. Just as a quick review, an upstroke, otherwise known as legato stroke, is sort of what Danny referred to as a piston stroke. Right? You're throwing down the stick at a high velocity and allowing the stick to rebound. Okay? Versus a staccato stroke or a downstroke where we're taking the stick and going straight down, and we're stopping the stick in playing position by allowing what I call our brakes, the bottom fingers, to apply a little pressure on the butt end of the stick. See how my stick is stopping in playing position versus a legato stroke where it's rebounding straight up. Okay, so in legatos, what's interesting is that it's mainly legato, at least the way we approach it. It's mainly legato, except for the very last note before a hand-to-hand transition. So in other words, in our first bar, you notice we have an entire bar of right-hand notes. We have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, all right, and that last note, the and of 4, we have a downstroke because we are having a prep, an upstroke with our left. So it looks something like this. Okay, and then off the left, okay, so that's something you should be working on, and there's plenty of opportunities just in these 8 bars to work on those upstrokes and downstrokes, okay? So let's go ahead. I'm going to rig up our playback here, and let's play a little quicker, okay? We're going to do the next one, which we're going to play at, let's do 130. Here we go. 12. So you notice on that very last release, we have down, down, right? Because we're ending the exercise. Down, down. Down, down. Okay, not only is it a uniformity of approach, but it's also a clean way from a stick height and visual ensemble. Let's play that again. All right, here we go, 130. Another thing you might notice me doing is we're not bringing our sticks in and out before and after exercises. We're actually starting with our hands and arms down at our side. So on the prep, you'll hear tap, tap, 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's when we'll bring our sticks up into playing position. And then at the end of the exercise, we have the release, and then 1, 2, 3, back down. Okay, I have some wires going on and stuff going on here, so it might be a little awkward for me. But for you, you're really thinking a picture to a picture with very little motion in between. Okay, it's a very instant motion. So let's go a little quicker. Let's do 160. And here we go, queuing it up. So as we increase speed, we need to make sure that we relax. Okay, we had talked about leaving this area in between the thumb and the pointer finger closed, and we talked about our finger being around the stick but allowing it to breathe. Okay, we'll do one more rep and we'll call that our warm-up. Here we go. Cool. So there's a lot more detail that needs to go into that, but hopefully that's enough to kind of get you started and get you warmed up before a practice session. So the next warm-up we're going to do is the next one on our list, and that's double triple beat. All right, now there's a couple things we need to do to explain this. So first of all, this is 2 warm-ups built into one. Same rhythms, different sticking. All right. So for instance, if you take a look at the top line of sticking, you'll notice that it actually says double beat. Okay, right, 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 left, right, 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 left. All right. So, and then it goes into the left. So there are some minor sticking differences, and then the second line is the triple beat, which you'll notice is all block hands. So groupings of 3, for instance, right, 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 end up being triple beat. Another example is, let's see, measures 9 and 10. We have 1 EN, 2 EN, 3 EN, 4 EN. On the double beat version, it would look something like this. In the triple beat version, which is the second line, the sticking says the following. Okay. Another item of note is that measure 11 is where the triple beat version ends. All right, so right after 1EN, 2EN, 3EN, 4N, 1EN, 2EN, 3EN, 4 and 1, that's where the triple beat version ends. However, in the double beat version, we go into a series of diddles, okay? 4 bars of diddles, okay? There is a repeat, so that is a 4-bar phrase. 2, 3, 4, 1, okay? So our double beat version, which would be right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, left, 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 then goes into the diddles, and then we end. So hopefully that clears some things up. All of these directions are located on the second page of double triple beat, all right? And if you look at the rehearsal notes, it's all laid out. But it's very important to note that that's 2 exercises built into one. A lot of people get a little confused about that. So the number one thing about this exercise is counting, all right? If you're unfamiliar with 1E endas and the musical structure of rhythm, it's very important to familiarize yourself with that because if you can count it, you can most definitely play it. All right, so the first bar and second bar, we have 1E, a 2, and a E, a 4, and a E, a 2, and 3E, and 4, and a 1. All right, so if you can't count that out loud, chances are you're not going to be able to play it in time at a high level. So make sure we get that ingrained in our system. And then we have a repeat off the left, all right? And then the final segment we have, starting on measure 5, 1EN, 2, and a 3, and 4EN, 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a EN, 1, and then that repeats, all right? So what's great about this exercise and these rhythms is that every time we have a grouping of 2, okay, we have a completion of that diddle of the next hand, all right? So let's take measure 5 and 6, for instance, 1EN, 2, and a 3, and 4EN. All right, every time we have a double stroke here, we're completing the diddle with the left. Because after all, double triple beat, this is building our open double stroke roll, right? So that's leading up to really fast duple rolls, which we'll get to in a moment. But for this all intents and purposes, we're most definitely stroking out these big fat diddles, okay? So relating back to the upstrokes and downstrokes, every one of these diddle passages should be thought of as down up, or up up, up up, up up, all right? Rebounding, allowing the stick to do the work for you. So let's take a look at the first 4 bars. I'm not going to play to a track or anything, but take a listen to the rhythms and pay close attention to the sticking. All right, so while I have a little quality of sound issues here, after all, this is live and all, it is important to note that I'm really applying some effort to have a single height quality, so playing the heights all at the same time, or sorry, playing all the notes at the same height, but it's to stay in rhythm and to play in time, I'm completing the diddle with the opposite hand. Okay, so then the next passage, we have 5, measure 5, we have 4 bars. 1EN, 2, and a 3, and 4EN, 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a EN, 1EN, 2, and a 3, and 4EN, 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a EN, 1. Okay, same concept. Every time we have duple groupings, we complete the hand of or complete the diddle with the next hand, okay? Now, if you notice, in the first 4 bars, it only happens a couple times, right? As we get through the exercise, we start adding more groupings until we get to big fat diddles at the end. All right, so this is all played at 1 height. For the most part, we play this at 9 and 12, depending on the height. So something to take a look at your practice session and whatnot. And yeah, that's pretty much what we have. I guess my last note is tacit hand. Okay, we said in our first clinic, tacit hand is any stick that is not currently playing. So if we're playing through our first passage, this hand is our tacit hand, and therefore should be motionless and staying in playing position. Same if we were to play on the left. This hand should be under control in tacit. All right, so moving down the packet, we have 6-on-4. That's our accent tap exercise. We already went over this in our first one. So again, I highly recommend taking a look at the first live stream that we did. Basic takeaway is that there are more taps than accents, and we had talked about using velocity even at low tap heights to create a big quality of sound, even with a low height. So review the notes in the packet, and there's some play-alongs in the first one. So for now, we're going to skim over that, but I really want to, I can't emphasize enough how important accent tap is. So just because I'm skipping it in this session doesn't mean it's any less important. So next on our list is Diddle Thing, which is our 16th note roll exercise. So ironically, we just did, and not so ironically, but what we just did was build slow double strokes. Okay, the purpose of that is to really stroke that out, get those rhythms in our hand to eventually build to this exercise. Okay, so this is our Duple roll exercise. So let's start from the top. You'll notice that the first 4 bars, seemingly easy, right? 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, rest, 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 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, rest, right? Well, the purpose of this is very similar to the accent tap beginning bars in that we're setting up what we call the check. Okay, the check is the 16th note rhythm that does not change at all throughout the whole exercise with the exception of one moment, which we'll get there in a moment. All right, so we're going to use this as great importance because whenever we change tempos, we're going to be able to use this as a means to get our hands and find that new tempo. All right, so if our tempo was somewhere around here, we got 1, 2, ready, and 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, dot, dot, dot. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1, dup, 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 1. Okay, and another thing you might notice is that we have duts, all right? Duts is just a timing exercise. I highly recommend you get in a habit of doing it. Again, more details will come later, but for now, get in a habit of doing it because we'll use it as a timing mechanism to be able to play with the people around you. All right, another thing is this is all one height exercise, and we typically do this at 9 inches. As we increase speed, maybe we bring that down to 6, sometimes even 3. But for now, I want you to focus on a nice solid 9. Really dig in. Okay, allow a little forearm to creep in. All right, naturally flow with a wrist-directed stroke. Okay, and then starting on bar 5, we have the exercise that starts. So if you notice the first 2 bars, we have diddles starting on 3 and 4. So go ahead and use 1 E and a 2 E and a as your diddle check going into 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. All right, and then we dive into the exercise. As the exercise progresses, we add more and more diddles. Okay, so bar 2 of the exercise, which I guess would be bar 6. We have 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a. So the diddles are now on the E's. So let's play bars 5 and 6 together. We have 1, 2, ready, and 1 E and a 2 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a. Okay. So as I'm playing those diddles, I'm not changing my grip, but I'm definitely adding just a little more pressure on my fulcrum. Okay, one exercise that we like to do as a sort of like a sub exercise is play legatos. And for one whole bar, you play 8th notes, and for a second whole bar, you play diddles. Okay, and that really isolates the timing of those diddles. It's a very hard thing to do, especially with a full drum line, but I highly recommend you do it on both hands. Okay, so all I'm doing is applying a little pressure in the fulcrum and allowing the stick to freely bounce. Okay, so then we start to, I guess one thing to point out is on measure 7, we have 1 enda 2 enda. Okay, we have 1 eighth note in the entire thing. So our right hand still continues. Our right hand doesn't change, right? So the right hand can still be felt as constant eighth notes. Because after all, if we took away the left hand in all this, we just have eighth notes, right? So if we started on bar 5, 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 1 E enda, 2 E enda, 3 E enda, 4 E enda, 1 enda, 2 E enda. Okay? Nothing really changes with the right. The left, however, we have 1 downstroke on the of 4. Okay? 1. Okay, so then as we get into the exercise, we have a series of upbeat 5 strokes, downbeat 5 strokes, and then we start adding groupings of 3 diddles. Okay, and then at the very end, we have the long roll. So I'm going to go ahead and rig this up. We're going to play, I think we have 110. And let's go ahead and play along. We're going to play this at 9. Here we go. Okay, so what I feel like as we progress through the exercise and add more diddles, you have to effort more. Does it mean play faster? No, it's actually the exact same tempo, playing the same rhythms. It's just the amount of diddles coming in and out are changing, and obviously some of the rhythms are changing along with that. So as we add more diddles, you may feel like you need to add a little more effort, and for a long roll, say like the long tap roll in the last bar, may have to add just a hair more arm. Add a hair more arm to kind of push through that. Bass drums, you might notice that for you, you don't have diddles, but for you, this is a 16th note timing exercise. So in case you didn't know, the big fat note that goes across the middle of the staff, that is a unison. So no matter what drum you're assigned to, which obviously will happen after auditions, you would be responsible for that note. So for now, being that we don't have drum assignments, you can go ahead and play the bass drum part as unisons. Okay, so every note in the bass drum can be played together. So with one exception, you guys have measure 10. Your rhythm splits up. So you have 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 1. Okay, 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 and a 1, and that's on measure 10. Okay, let's go ahead and play that again. Let's go ahead and play that a little quicker now. All right, so moving down the list in the next exercise, we have Rob's almost politically correct triplet rolls. Now, the reason why they're almost politically correct is because this is based off of a warm-up that I performed many years ago, and because it's a little different, I cleverly said almost politically correct. rolls. So anyway, same kind of approach applies to this as it did in 16th note rolls, in that we have the first 4 bars used as our check. So we have 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the exercise would start. So anytime we change tempo, this is a very good method to get the new tempo in your feet, all right? And get that triplet hand motion in, because going back and forth from 16th notes to triplets can sometimes be tricky, and oftentimes in our warm-up block we'll do that intentionally, go back and forth to make sure that we can differentiate between those rhythms. So let's play the first 4 bars together. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. So triplets, we have 3 notes per every beat, which means every downbeat will be an opposite hand. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Right? So in this case, we want all block heights. Again, same with 16th note rolls. This is usually 9-inch throughout the whole thing. Okay? So let's play the first 4 bars together. Check. 1, 2, and 1 and a 2 and a ready, and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Dup, dup, dup. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Dup. Stopping here. 1. Let's play it again. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So even though we're counting or dudding through those rests, it's no excuse to not have good posture and approach throughout that. So just because we're not playing doesn't mean that our mind shuts down, and it also doesn't mean that we let our guard down. We should be always subdividing those triplets, whether or not we're playing. Okay, so in bars 5 and 6, much like 16th note, you'll find a lot of similarities between these. We have diddles starting on the downbeat of 3 and 4, and then we have upbeat diddles on bar 6 on beats 3 and 4, and then we start adding the 5-stroke rolls. So first 2 bars of the exercise, 5 and 6, we have. Okay, and just because we have a double stroke in double stroke diddle and some of that doesn't mean we change the quality of sound. Just because we have 2 notes, both of those diddles should be equally weighed. Like that was not. Let's try it again. Okay, so moving down the exercise, we start adding 5 strokes. We start adding tap rolls. Woo! Tap rolls. Okay, tap 5s, fresh roll. We have bar 11. We have upbeat diddles followed by downbeat diddles, and then 2 long roll of fresh roll. Cool. So let's go ahead and rig up our player. And just to reiterate, this is a single height exercise, and we really want to get a good quality of sound. Very consistent sound at 9-inch. And here we go. Let's play together. Cool. So much like the 16th note exercise, it's very important to note that as we add more diddles and the rhythms get denser, we need to add a little more energy. All right. Throughout all these exercises, it's important to note that quad drums, make sure you're playing this on 1 drum only. Okay. It's important. We had talked about in the first video, proper grip. We're about a 45-degree angle. All right, your pad may have to be a little lower so your arm angles are a little more relaxed, all right? But definitely play this through rhythmically, all these warm-ups, rhythmically, preferably on drum 2, and then get comfortable with the splits. If you learn all the splits, it's very possible you learn it with poor rhythm quality or sound quality, and then the splits are really not doing anything for you. So 100% make sure you're playing it on 1 drum first. And then bass drums, all these notes should be alternated strokes, right, left, right, left, right. All right, so you can listen for the snares and the quads for the note spacing. Let's go ahead and play that through again. And one thing we also mentioned in one of the other sessions is that we don't want to end the exercise with an immature thwack. All right, so this is a very easy one to hack through the last bar, right, and really go after that last attack. Same height, all right, so if we start at 9, ends at 9. Cool. Let's play a little quicker. All right, so next up we have a warm-up called DBL Diddles. From what I understand, don't be late diddles, okay? This is a 16th note diddle and paradiddle timing exercise. So if you take a look at the first bar, take out the left hands for a moment, all right? Really you have a series of right hands, and if you looked at the rhythm, it would be 1, and E, 4, 1. 1, and E, 4, 1. 1, and E, 4, 1. Okay? So if we took out our left hands completely, you will find that these are mainly upstrokes, finishing with a downstroke. 1, and E, 4. Up, 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 down. And in between every one of the accents up until beat 4, we're filling the space in with a left hand diddle. This rhythm, okay, or this rudiment, if you will, that's called a paradiddle. Anytime you have one hand followed by 2 more notes. Okay, so you'll notice that beat 4 is a simple paradiddle. So bar 1 would go something like this. 1, and E, 4, diddle 1. 1, and E, 4, diddle 1. Okay, so the right hand, up, 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 down, diddle. And then the next bar, same exact thing. It's off the left. Up, 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 down a diddle 1. So let's play the first 2 bars together. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and. Okay, so all of those taps in the middle there definitely should be an even stroke. Okay, and if you took out all the sticking, you really should sound like this. So one little sub exercise you can do while you're working through this is play 1 time through with single stroke sticking. So you notice the moment I went into the exercise, I wanted to rush those left hands, okay? So that's definitely something you want to do. You want to hang on to that grip and place those diddles accordingly. So that repeats, so that whole top line is a series of repeats. And then we get to beat 5, bar 5, and it cuts in half. So instead of going 1, and E, 4, we're now doing 1, 3, okay? 1, 3, So taking out all the inner beats, we have upstroke, downstroke, upstroke, downstroke. Okay, so I highly encourage you to work on the subdivision of those accents, and then we fill it in with the paradiddles. Okay, moving on, we have some interesting paradiddle, invert paradiddle stuff. So rhythmically, we're only playing 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1. So on the page, it looks like pi, but when you start implementing the grip, you're going after the quality of sound, and you go after all the inner beats, and with the sticking, it becomes a little tricky because there's a lot going on mechanically. So it looks something like this. Yeah. All right, so you can tell that I'm a little shaky, a little out of practice. However, one thing I am trying to do is making sure applying enough grip on my left and playing even notes. Okay, so moving on to the next page, we have paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, 4E and a 1. Sorry, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, paradiddle, paradiddle 1. All right, so we got 4 paradiddles in a row, and then paradiddle, paradiddle. Also, a side note on beat 4, which is the beginning of the 3rd paradiddle, we have a shot. All right, more to that in a moment. So it'd be something like this. Okay. Quick note on some rim shots. Rim shots are a timbre change, okay? It's not an invitation to play any higher. It's not an invitation to play any different. The only thing you're going to do is take your playing position, okay? Up until this point, we've been playing in the center of the head if you're a snare drum or a bass drum, and towards the edge, maybe in the lower 4th, lower 3rd if you're a quad drummer. But regardless, when you aim for a rim shot, you're going to take your elbow and move it back. All right, and if we can see on this camera here, you're going to hit a standard rim shot right where the stick starts to taper, right where it starts to get a little fatter. Okay, that's our standard rim shot zone. So one little sub-exercise you can do is legatos, 1 bar in the center of the drum at 12, and then 1 bar in rim shot zone, something like this. Okay, and even though I'm reaching back for a rim shot, all right, I'm still approaching it with rebound. I'm not over gripping, and I'm not gritting my teeth and playing any harder. I'm allowing the stick to rebound off the rim the same way it would off the drum. Okay, so that's a standard rim shot. We also have 2 other timbres in the genre, in the style of rim shot, or in the classification of a rim shot. Okay, so we talked about a standard rim shot is around here. We also have a ping shot, which if you take the distance between your bead and where the stick starts to taper and you cut it in half, and that's your zone, that's a ping shot. Okay, so it would look something like this. Okay, so you're kind of aiming on the upper side of the stick. It's going to get a little high pitch, a little drier sound. Okay, and then finally, the mother load of rim shots, we have a gok shot. All right, so you take your playing position, and your rim shot zone is going to be basically in playing position. All right, so you're going to aim for the big fat part of the stick, and your stick is going to still be in the center of the head. Now, would we ever play a succession of gok shots? In my style of writing and at KUMU, chances are we're not. We're going to use it as an effect shot here and there, typically 1 or 2 at a time, never that many. But that's a basic overview of rim shots. So getting back to DBL diddles, we have our paradiddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, shot diddle diddle, paradiddle diddle, 4E and a 3E and a 4E and a. All right, and now I love the next 2 bars because next 2 bars go back to open stroke diddles. First bar is just open diddles, 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a, and then we invert it. So we go to right, left, right, left, right, right, left, right, right, left, right, right. All right, so if you're not paying attention to the sticking, it really should just sound like 2 bars of straight 16th notes. But in this case, we changed the sticking. So it'll look something like this. Try it again. All right, so in the spirit of our paradiddle exercise, we're taking diddles, and then we're taking 4E and 1E and All right, so the turnaround between beat 4 and beat 1 is super important because we have diddle, diddle, right diddle, diddle. Diddle, diddle, right diddle, diddle. Okay, so you need to establish some flow. I highly suggest doing this nice and slow. All right, so when you really open it up, it's not that hard. When you start playing it fast, you need a little flow. So next in our list, we have a little exercise called Check Patterns, arranged by Greg Malleus. And this is one of our bass exercises, and I believe one of our audition requirements. This is drumming 101, and oftentimes associated with bass drum is isolated 16th note parts. So it's super important that we take a look at this. In fact, everyone in the battery should be looking at this too. So I want to mention something that's super important. If you take a look at the first 3 bars, the right hand remains consistent, right? So bar 1, we have 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Second bar, we have 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a. And bar 3, we have 1EN, 2EN, 3EN, 4EN. So when you put them all together, this is what the right hand's doing. Right? So the right hand remains consistent throughout the whole first 3 bars. So you can consider that an upstroke. The left hand, however, is going to be placed in a couple different times or areas. So on bar 2, we have 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4, and that left hand is going to be a downstroke on the every beat. All right, so we got 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Okay, and then bar 3, 1EN, 2EN, 3EN, 4EN, that left hand is going to be a downstroke on the E. So let's play those first 3 bars together. We have 1 and 2 and ready, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1EN, 2EN, 3EN, 4EN, 1. Okay. Now, if I were practicing quads or bass drum, I would most definitely have my pad lower, just to reiterate. All right. So then bar 4, we alternate our 8th notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay. Because now that's our turnaround, because now we're going to play the left hands on all the E's and the U's. So the next bar, which is bar 5, we have 1E, a 2E, a 3E, a 4E, and you can tell that now our left hand's remaining consistent legatos just on the E's and the U's. And then on bar 6, we have E and a, E and a, E and a, E and a 1. The left hand still remain consistent. It's now the right hand doing a downstroke on the and count. So starting on bar 4, we have something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1E, a 2E, a 3E, a 4E, E and a, E and a, E and a, E and a 1. Okay? And now we go back to the alternating 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now we have some isolated groupings of 2, starting with 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E. Notice they're all downstrokes, okay? And then we have upbeat groupings. So we have 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1. Okay, so that last and of 4 would be an upstroke, and 1. Okay, so piecing all that, and then I guess the last bar, we have 1E and a 2E and a 3, a 4, a 1. So it looks something like this. Okay, so at this tempo, I would consider 3, a 4, a 1 to be downstrokes. So let's try the whole thing. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and 1. Let's try that again. 1 and 2. Come on, Matthew, ready, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1EN, 2EN, 3EN, 4EN. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. E and a, E and a, E and a, E and a 1, and alternating. and 1E, 2E, 3E, 4E, 1, and a 2, and a 3, and a 4, and a 1E, and a 2E, and a 3, a 4, a 1. Okay? Now, 3, a 4, a 1, let's make sure they're 16th notes and we don't round them off to be triplets. Oftentimes, this rhythm gets confused with triplet, triplet, trip, triplet, triplet, trip. Okay? In this case, it's 1E and a 2E and a 3. Okay? So the groupings of the two notes together. All right, and finally in our list of exercises to get to is an exercise called Moons Over My Flammy. You like that one, right? So before we even dive into the exercise, it's important to note all of the flam rudiments that go into making this possible, right? We have flams, we have flam accents, we have flam taps, and we have flaws. 150%, 200%, you need to learn and be familiar with these flam rudiments in order to succeed at this exercise, all right? So what is a flam? A flam is 2 strokes. One stroke, 2 hands. You have a primary stroke, and you have a grace note, okay? The grace note always comes before the primary stroke, all right? Now, there are some multiple interpretations of what a grace note is and where it's placed in music. For our purposes, I say as close as the primary stroke as possible without being a double stop. What is a double stop? When the sticks hit the playing surface at the exact same time, okay? Oftentimes, the drum will have some sort of pop to it when you do it correctly, but for a flam, it really takes an articulation and makes it a little wider. Okay, instead of a dut, you have a chut, if you will. Okay, so for a flam, a good way to work on it is to play some downstroke right hands, and then place that left hand accordingly. Okay, I personally have gotten in a habit early on in my life of having very wide flams, because that's what I was taught at a young age. And as I got older, I realized that it's more about creating a fat, thicker articulation and less about an actual rhythm placement. So if you're the kind of person that was taught to be a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, all right, that's probably going to be interpreted a little too wide for our program. So think about it as being as close as possible to the primary stroke without actually being on top. Okay, so this in itself is a lifetime of learning for flams, all right? So take a gracious amount of time and practice those flams, both upstrokes and downstrokes. One thing we didn't cover in our height exercise is that a grace note height is really ideally a 1-inch height, all right? So it's barely even a tap, but should be audible, okay? Next, we have flam accents. Okay, a flam accent is a flam followed by 2 taps. When you oftentimes play it in a succession of flam accents. Okay, flam accent, flam accent, flam accent, flam accent. Now, one thing a lot of people get confused about is that they often hear it in triplets, 1 and a 2 and a 3. Or they've heard it in 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 1. And at the end of the day, a flam accent could be any rhythm you place it into. It's really the succession of notes that make it a flam accent. So in the case of this exercise, they're 16th notes and often interpreted as 1E and a 2E and. Okay? Okay, so you can take just any downbeat exercise. 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. You could also interpret as 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a. Okay? It's important that those taps in the middle stay down and that our primary stroke is at accent height. Next, we have flam taps. And flam taps is, you can basically think of it as diddles, right, right, left, left, flamming the first of every 2 grouping. So we have flam right, left flam, left, right flam, right, left flam, left. And I really recommend you taking some time and really detailing flam taps that slowly, okay? One cool thing about Flam taps is they're one of those rudiments that feel good at fast tempos. All right, so if you take Flam taps and break down each hand, okay, if you take away that one hand, okay, you suddenly have triple beat, okay, which is one of those things that triple beat can help you with. But in this, you know, we have it interpreted as both 8th note, 16th note. So take a look at that. And then flaws. A flaw is anything you have flam, flam. Okay, you have a succession of flam, often associated with a pad of fla, fla. Okay, you have flam, accent, fla, fla. You also have right, left. Okay, 2 flams in a row. So all of those rudiments, you need to spend a good amount of time before we even get to this. All right, so let's dive into the exercise here. I'd actually like to start at letter A. Okay, I know the whole beginning up to letter A is a flam tap style exercise, but I'm going to skip to letter A. All right, now we are in 5/8. Don't be scared of it. It's 8th note, time bass, and there's felt in 5. So we have 1, 1, okay. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. So we have flam accent, flam accent, flam, flam, flam accent, flam accent, flam, flam. Okay, followed by a series of some more flam accents. Flam accent, flam accent, flam accent, flam accent, flam, 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 flam. Okay, so we have 4 flam accents in 16th note form, followed by 4 8th note flams. So when you put that whole phrase together, you get something like this. Cool? So then, letter A, that whole thing repeats. So let's play it 2 times through. We got 1, and 1, and. Again. Cool, so that is the foundation, the main lick, if you will, throughout the whole thing. And we kind of deviate from that here and there. But for the most part, the whole exercise is based around that, because check it out. Once you feel good with A, take your left hand off the drum and play letter A. And suddenly, you're playing the very beginning of the piece. Okay? So the beginning of the piece is basically the right-hand part of letter A. Okay? Now, of course, 1, 2, 3, 4, bar 5 is the left hand playing the right hand of letter A. All right? So it's not the left hand part. But if you take this passage of letter A and play it with just the right hand, you have your accent tap pattern. So that's a very easy way to check yourself whether or not your rhythms are coming through. So let's go ahead and play top to letter A. We're going to play that right hand part both on the right and the left. Okay. Now notice there's one difference, and there are a couple flams on the 4th bar of every one of those phrases. Take a look at that. So that brings us to letter B. So letter B is the left-hand part of letter A. So we take back to this lick. We have take away your right hand. Suddenly you have what we're playing at letter B, okay? So one thing that I think could be very helpful is you have your pad, put a pillow here, put a pillow here. Play it 1 time through, with your left hand playing on the pad, and then on the second time through, put your right hand on the pad, and you'll hear that rhythm, all right? Now, that's no excuse for not knowing the rhythm, and I think that's the difference. Get comfortable with the rhythm, doing it in this method, but also count it out. 1 and a 2, 1 and a 2, okay? So, letter B, letter B. Let's play the left-hand rhythm starting on the right. We have... Okay, and just like the very beginning, we have a couple flams at the end of all those passages. Why? Because the first time through, we have down, right, left. Second time we have, okay, so when you combine all those, you have 4 flams in a row, just like letter A. So letter C is a riff off of letter A. So the first half of letter C is the same lick we know and love. Okay, but then we go into a variation. Okay, now we enter 7/8. Don't be afraid, we're adding 2 8th notes. Okay, so starting on, let's see, that is 32, 31, bar 30, we have 1 E and a, Okay, and then we have 1 E and a, Okay, so then we have a series of flam taps. Okay, so Okay, so I'm not gonna be able to detail this entire thing, but definitely take some time, and quads 100% play on one drum, and by that one drum I mean drum 2, before you start doing all these nutty splits and whatnot. So then letter D is special because we go back to playing what we play at letter A and then also at letter B. The only difference is we're splitting it amongst sections. So snare drums, you start letter A playing this rhythm. All right, quads, you start with, and between the quads and the snares, we have a completed all right, so it's kind of a cool ensemble thing to piece together. Bass drums, you're a hybrid of both, right? So your part involves some of that snare part, some of that quad part, and you create the happy medium. Okay, letter E, we go into a whole series of flams, flam taps. It's the works. And then we go into the dreaded 15-16 bar. My suggestion is learn it beat by beat, and you'll realize that there's a lot of flow to it. All right, so we'll play it through in a moment, and you'll see. We'll break that down further in person. Then we have a 5/4 bar, and the 5/4 bar is a lot easier than what it looks like. So it's really just groupings of 5. 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 5 E and a 1. Okay, 1, 2 E and a 1. 1, 2 E and a 1. Fill it in with alternating sticking. You got this. Okay, and then again a series of 16th note, flam accents, flam taps, and flaws. We'll again break that down in further detail later. So then I want to mention one before letter F. We have 49. We have 1, and then we're going to move on count 2 because we have a dynamic change and a timbre change. And this is the first time we had talked about moving to the edge. So if you're a snare drummer, your edge is actually at somewhere between around 2 to 3 o'clock. The reason is the snare bed stretches across this way. All right, so we move our sticks here and then travel along the snare gut just to have a little more articulation. So on beat 2, if you're a snare drum, 1, 2, and notice my beads are equal distant to the rim. 3E, endo, 4E, N. And we talked about a shot being right where the taper is. 1, 2, 3E, endo, 4E, N. Okay. Bass drums, you got some 4s. All right, so you can take a look at those 4s by subdividing your right hands. And then letter F, we have this guy. Okay. Again, we'll break that down in more detail. My biggest recommendation is to play it without flams first. Okay, and on the of 2, we're going to have a big fat gok shot at the end of that. So then everyone but the quads rests on 3 and 4, and then we end on 1 DN. 1 and da. Okay? So without further ado, let's play this through. And if you need to watch first, go ahead. All right? Don't feel the need to play back, but use this as a guide. And here we go. So those rim shots, the rim shot bar, bum, we could probably, you have a little more liberty on that. You don't have to keep that at 12. The whole exercise is basically 12-6, but you could have a little more liberty. You play that 15, maybe the gok at 18 even. So I know we didn't get a chance to review all of those bars, especially the hard ones, but check it out slowly, go beat by beat, and you'll be fine. All right, so I want to take a moment and wrap up with some review of the audition requirements for the battery. All right, there is a PDF available on the website kumubears.com/drumline, and there is a document called the audition requirements. Okay, and it goes through some tips on how to record yourself. Make sure you're well lit. Make sure that we can see your body. The audition does require you to mark time, and maybe we can review that in the question and answer, but we're not going to be judging the technique per se because we haven't gone over it, but we will be judging whether or not you are in time with your hands and with the metronome. Speaking of metronome, that metronome does need to be audible, and we need to be able to hear it over your pad. So we need to be able to see your hands, see your feet, hear your beats, and hear the metronome. So the audition requirements for the snare drum line, we're going to be doing accent tap, so 6 on 4, and you can choose the tempo anywhere between 110 and 120. And again, we're looking for that consistent tap height down at 3 and that consistent accent height at 12. Okay, we're also going to require diddle thing somewhere between 90 and 100 BPM. Again, that's block 9. And Rob's rolls, the triplet roll exercise, that'll be a little quicker. That'll be at 130, 140, again, block 9. And then moons over my Flammy, which will be somewhere between 94, 104, Side note, if you don't feel comfortable playing that tempo and you'd rather play it at either a slower tempo, for example, go ahead and do so. All right, we'd rather see you succeed at a tempo that's more comfortable for you. But that said, it is an exercise that once you feel comfortable with the rudiments, you can kind of put a little zip on it. So whatever feels good for you, we'll accept. All right, so quads, we are accepting split parts as part of your audition. I'll reiterate that make sure you practice on a one drum first and understand the rhythms, the stickings, and all that great stuff before you move to the splits. But we would love to see the splits as part of the audition. And all of your assignments will be the same as the snare drum line. 6-on-4, diddle thing, Rob's rolls, moon flams. Bass drums will be slightly different. 6-on-4, go ahead and play the snare part, okay? Literally play the snare part on your pad with match grip, okay? Diddle thing, go ahead and play the snare part. Please play the rolls. We'll see where you're at with diddles, because yes, we do write bass drum diddles. And then Rob's rolls, play the snare part once again. And check patterns, that will be the one unique thing to you guys, all of which is in the packet. Cymbals, we're actually going to be having a whole live stream dedicated for you, so we'll be reviewing some of that, but you'll be doing Legatos, 6-on-4, and Goldie's Revenge, which is our street beat. For those of you who don't know, Goldie, that was the original, well, the mascot when me and Danny were in school prior to Avalanche, so it was just a cute, stupid name. So for the submission guidelines, you'll see in this PDF, we have a couple frames of a good example. Full body is shown from head to toe, which allows for posture and mark time to be visible. Well lit with plenty of natural light. I can't emphasize that. Don't stand in front of a window, okay? Have the window be in front of you so you're lit, all right? Because we need to be able to see you to be able to accurately judge. And please have white sticks and wear something dark. That allows you to see the contrast. If you tape your sticks black, which literally no one does, come on, don't do that, and you're wearing black, we're not going to be able to see those stick heights, so you won't get the benefit of the doubt of having solid heights. So all of these auditions tapes are going to be due mid-July, so please take a look at the website. All of the step-by-step guidelines are on the website, so take a look. So I think that's everything we have for this session. So we are going to do a live Q&A, me and Danny. So we need to take a moment to strike the set, get our chairs up and moving some stuff. So in the meantime, while we do that, please check out this recruitment video that we made last year, as told through the eyes of our own members.
When I was in high school, I had no idea of what college band was like. It's one of the only organizations I've ever been in that incorporated a great chance for leadership and a great chance to be with a phenomenal drumline and a phenomenal band.
Here in the percussion ensemble, we have a good balance of being dedicated and having fun. We all look out for each other, we hang out outside of KUMU, we're always together, and all that really cultivates a really strong family atmosphere throughout the section.
It's all about the friends, honestly. You gain so much of a social life here. Being able to love each other and play well together is a great experience. What's most memorable is what happens at some of our biggest performances like Collegiate Marching Band Festival. We get a full-blown lot experience, we get to perform for thousands of people. It's an opportunity like no other.
The exhibitions are always really fun. I've never done those before. Going to all the high schools and hyping them up.
Every year it improves, and I'm so excited to be a part of this.
All right. Hopefully that went all right.
I enjoyed it.
All right, right on.
The moon's over my Flam, it gets me.
Yeah, that's a fun exercise though. Like you got to put in some work, right? And I had to put in the same amount of work to figure it out and practice it myself. So There's a lot of ensemble things. We can talk about that in a moment. But welcome to Q&A, and we're going to field some live questions from the chat and the comments. Feel free to talk about or ask questions about auditions, any technique and exercises that we review, anything about the season, anything about us, anything about the program. This is an opportunity for
Kutztown.
Yeah, Kutztown in general. This is an opportunity for us to talk. We don't get to see everyone too often, right? So I guess the other thing I want to mention is that there is a delay between us. You probably know this by now, but anything we see, you may hear on a slight delay. So we'll try to get to all of your questions. If we don't, you can always go to kumubears.com/drumline, and you'll see our contact information at the very bottom, along with Dr. Neuenschwander, who is our director of band. So if you have a general band class scheduling kind of question, feel free to reach out to him. First question we have here. And by the way, Greg Malleus is doing a fantastic job at fielding our questions. He is hoarding questions and providing them in a shared Google document. So he's doing a very good job. So everyone give some props to Greg Malleus in the
Yay,
background.
Greg.
Yay, Greg.
It's making the process a little easier for us.
All right, so I'm just reading what Greg gives me. All right, so first question. How many members will you be accepting for each section? If you tuned into the front ensemble stream that we just did a couple hours back, you'll know that it really depends. It depends on how many people are auditioning. It
Depends on what the season looks like.
We don't even know if we're going to have a traditional season with the whole, what's going on right now, COVID stuff. But we have an X amount of drums. That is a do not exceed limit. And then from there, it's up to us to make a battery that balances the horn line.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into those decisions in terms of just an ensemble perspective. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff that we talk about in terms of sound, and is it appropriate to have this number if we have this number from a balance perspective? So it's not always we have this amount of drums, we can fill them all. Sometimes it's the good of the ensemble. So there's a lot of things that go into
and there's balance decision with the horns and the winds and everything too. If we can't take 20 snare drummers and 10 quads, although that would be pretty sweet. It's just going to be overbearing. Just like we can't have 10 bass drums; it'd be too much boom boom. So I guess to answer the question, it'll be somewhere in the range of 5 to 8 snares. It'll be somewhere in the range of 3 to 5 quads. It'll be somewhere in the range of 4 to 6 bass drums. Somewhere in the range of 3 to 6 cymbals. So we'll audition and we'll find out. All right, so we got another question from Trevor. Thoughts on sticks for the season? Actually, I meant to reach out to some people. So we're pretty flexible. We do have a deal with Vic Firth, so it would have to be something Vic.
Yeah, keep it Vic. Keep it Vic Firth related. If you have, what we've kind of done in the past is if you had thoughts or suggestions, you can send them to us, and we will weigh our opinions in here or there.
I would say like section leaders, you can talk with your section to see, hey, I want to try out this stick or that stick. We're flexible, whatever you want to use, but my number one thing is whatever you choose, the whole section uses that, all right?
Yeah, it's in it.
We've actually had some issues with that in the past where some veterans bring in like an entirely different brand or entirely different stick, and it makes a difference. All right, so whatever you choose, stick with it, right? And then moving on. Next question. So what is the plan for band camp? This is another one that we had talked about in the front ensemble. We don't know for sure. There's some plans that we're talking about with Dr. Neuenschwander and some of the other staff. And to be honest, we don't have enough info from the university and athletics and everything to make a well-informed decision. So we're working on that.
what we mentioned earlier is just make sure you're signed up with your email. Check your email occasionally. Dr. Neuenschwander did inform us when we spoke with him that information would be shared through whatever you signed up with when you did the form registration.
Danielle really liked my stick joke, by the way. I just wanted to point that out. Danielle thought it was funny. Hi, Danielle. Thanks for tuning in again. That's like many hours of KU Drumline that you just tuned into.
Jokes that I want to say that would not be appropriate for live television.
This is a great question. What is this year's show? So before COVID, pre-COVID, this year's show was the music of Scheherazade, and it was something we were really looking forward to. If you're not familiar with it, I would look up the original. It's fantastic. It's a brilliant work of art. But also the drum corps ported version would be Santa Clara Vanguard 2004 and Santa Clara Vanguard 2014. They actually did it 10 years later. So check that out. It's pretty rad. And that's sort of our foundation of some of the ideas that we were working with. There's a lot of in-your-face moments. There's a lot of really catchy melodies. It's very dynamic. And yeah, so I say we were very excited.
That's the original plan that we were going to roll with. The music arranger and everybody was on board. But right now we're kind of in that holding pattern, depending on what's decided from a university standpoint as to what we can do show-wise and participation-wise. So.
Yeah, I'm seeing some really awesome comments coming in. Unfortunately, I can't like multitask and like be a host at the same time. So that's my
bear
bad.
with us.
Yeah. All right. So are we required to use a metronome for Moons Over My Flammy during auditions? This is a fantastic question and one that I was not very clear on. So all of our audition pieces do require to hear the metronome and hear you playing along to the metronome, with the exception of Moons Over My Flammy. Now, bonus points, if you're able to like program your met and play with it flawlessly, like you probably should be marching somewhere else, if that's the case, in a better way, a much better drum line. But if you do that, bonus points for you. If not, that's totally cool. One thing we do ask, however, is to state the tempo you're going to play at, and also play it like what, 4 bars or so.
Just start it for a couple bars and then stop it.
And then play your audition.
Take that,
just so we can
tempo.
internalize this is the tempo that you're planning on performing at.
What you're sending us is what we're seeing. So if we want a starting tempo to know where you're starting at.
Right. So full disclosure, we are not going to use the metronome for the duration of the whole exercise. Maybe we'll use some 5/8 stuff. But other than that, make sure we just hear a very steady beat. You can use the pulse for that. All right. Who asked this? Can a dab be implemented into this year's show?
Isn't that old school at this point? Isn't that like the past? Like my middle school that I teach at was doing dabs a year and a half ago, 2 years ago.
But they're older now. Now they're older, so
I don't know.
2.5 years.
I don't know.
Anyway,
Waffle House.
So here's the deal with visuals. I love visuals. I love vocals. This group is very good at vocals, I must say. Our vocal game is very strong. So I encourage to keep that up. But here's the deal. All vocals, all visuals are just secondary to the music and the performance. So every note needs to be memorized and performed at an acceptable level, and then we can talk about that kind of stuff. No harm in thinking about it. If you guys are hanging out at whatever camp that we find ourselves at and you're talking about it, feel free to communicate about it. But it's one of those things that we like to define it. I know everyone.
Yeah, define. We get teased
Make
about
it official
that, but
as part of the show.
It's one of those things.
Do returning members need to audition and aren't guaranteed the spot they have? Yeah, so everyone needs to audition, period. No one is safe. If you're a returning vet, use the experience that you've had here to your advantage. But these auditions, especially this year where we only have the video to work with, it really comes down to what we see on camera and how much work you put in.
Yeah.
As Danny always said, you earn your spot. And that's super important to us.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want it, you got to work hard, and don't think about the other people. Think about what you need to do to get better and to put out the best product, and provide us with that best product. Take the time to do it right.
Here's another question.
Right.
Assuming the season is semi-normal, when would sectionals be? So it's a good question. I don't know the answer.
I was gonna say it's hard to answer. Like, I hate not having answers.
However,
for
it's
that
good
stuff.
to bring up that our normal band schedule throughout the year is a class, right? So you get credit as long as you sign up and do the proper avenues to be enrolled into the class. You actually get class credit to do marching band. That said, there are usually one day we do a percussion only throughout the week. We try to abide by everyone's schedules and try to find a time that everyone can be a part of it. Unfortunately, not everyone can.
It's hard.
Yeah, it's very hard with everyone's schedule, but we do try to put in a drumline and pit sectional. Sometimes we'll have battery only, sometimes we'll have pit only. It really depends on what needs to be worked on that week. So there, whatever the band schedule is, typically we do add an extra time slot, and we always try to make it either before or after. So far it's only been after an actual band rehearsal, so that way you're not coming to the field a whole separate time in the day, right?
Yeah, we try to keep it that same day from a scheduling perspective. So all the gear's out too, from a rehearsal standpoint, all the gear's out. And we could definitely talk to student leadership about handling some of the gear in terms of equipment on and off too.
Danielle likes a good pun, that's for sure. And
She's smart. She gets
Joey Joey D asked, "Can I play drum set?"
Can you play drum set?
We were really not prepared for that.
I'm gonna answer with a question. Can you really play drum set? Like, good with time and everything? I don't have an answer for
technically
you.
we don't.
Right now, I'm gonna actually say no.
Technically, we don't own one.
Because yeah, I mean, I have one, or I'm sure you have one. Here's why I'm gonna say no. Because it's a logistical standpoint of on and off the field at the moment. 100% that's why I'm answering no at the moment. We have a hard enough time trying to get the rack set up and everything we have on and off the field, let alone if we add, unless somebody donates a drum set cart and all kinds of different things for us. So I appreciate the interest, and I'm not being sarcastic. Like, maybe that's something in the future, but from a logistical standpoint, we got enough things in our hat right now to work through. So, but cool that you're interested.
So I just got a text message, and the text message is, "Do bass drums ever use rim shots?" And to that, I would say, yeah. I think, Greg, they use rim shots. So a rim shot on a bass drum would be exactly what it sounds like. You're actually pulling the stick back and hitting the rim and the drum at the same time, and you sort of have more of a different timbre. We also have rim clicks, which is when you place the mallet on the top rim, and we have like one of those rim guards that fall off often, but the new drums haven't, so that's good, I think. So usually the rim shots are for an effect, a musical effect, and the rim clicks are more so for like a timing mechanism. So Greg, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much the general rule for rim clicks is always at tap height, never accented and wailing away. That's how they fall off. So this is a fantastic question. Do you have a rubric for what you're looking for in the audition? And if so, can you explain it a little bit to us? And if so, are they different for each section? So I believe they're not different for every section. It's just a matter of what the section is presenting. We do have a rubric, and I'm not sure if I'm in a position to bring it up real quick, but maybe if Danny can stall.
So, first of all, Joey, I'm glad that you have a Yamaha kit. That's cool. Second of all, what was the question? I was reading the comments instead of actually listening to Matt's question. Was it the rubric for the auditions?
The rubric for auditions.
Yeah, so we definitely, the front ensemble rubric is a little bit different than the battery audition rubric. We did have rubrics last year. We had timing in there. I do believe we had quality of sound. I think he's pulling it up now. But what we ended
I have
up
the
doing,
battery. I don't have the front ensemble.
yeah, I think it's more of a battery question.
Okay,
anyway.
so there are two sheets. Last year we split it up into, we had 4 judges, so the 4 techs that were there, we split it 2 sheets into 4 judges, and we have 70% breakdown is the timing of your hands, 30% is the timing of your feet in the first sheet. So if you think of 100% from a timing standpoint, 70% is in your hands, 30% in the feet. We don't have time to read the entire thing, but for the upper, like, advanced timing of the hands, near flawless rhythm and diddle interpretation, constantly plays in time, little to no tempo fluctuation. And in the lowest category, general lack of awareness regarding rhythm and diddle interpretation, rarely plays in time, fluctuates tempo. And then in the feet, pretty similar, just in terms of feet. On the higher end, feet are always in time with a strong pulse. On the low end, feet are not in time with a noticeable lack of pulse. So as I said in the first clinic, we didn't go over like actual feet technique, so we're not going to be judging that, but we are going to judge the timing. Are your feet moving?
How it lines up with your hands.
So that's the first rubric. The second one is technique, and this sheet breaks down as 70% technique and 30% sound. On the upper end of technique, you have demonstrates an exceptional understanding of grip, approach, and heights, strong stroke mechanics with little to no execution errors, adapts instantly to modifications in technique, and seamlessly switches between styles of technique. And then on the very low end, we have demonstrates weak understanding of grip, approach, and heights, a little to no understanding of stroke mechanics, and pretty much everything on the upper end, but does not demonstrate. And then sound, do you have good quality of sound? Are you placing rhythms right, or are you not? So there is a 200-point system that we are scoring.
And each of us gets one, and we're all focused in, and we end up tallying up all the scores, and then...
Yeah, so last year, for those of you who don't know, we actually did all scoring blinding, which I believe is how it should work. And we tallied up all of our notes over lunch or dinner, whatever it was, dinner, I guess. And we found that 95%, 96% of the numbers were all right on, accurate from tech to tech. So we have a pretty good idea of what we want and what we're looking for. So hopefully, I mean, that... If you ask me, that was a really good, solid answer to that question. I'm just saying. We should do this.
And we could actually go into a lot more detail of that if we had more time, but...
Right. Are we allowed to play a faster tempo than what we're required to play for the audition? I recommend staying within the tempo range. That way we have something that we can compare you to, both from a technique and sound production standpoint.
Yeah, I think if there's a range listed, stay in that range.
I would recommend doing that. Is it a deal breaker? I mean, maybe. It could be to your advantage or it could not be, but I would recommend not. What kind of social distancing and precautions will be taken due to the pandemic? Well,
quads are in a little better shape than everyone else because they're socially distant. Their instruments put them socially distance-wise, I think probably 6 feet, right?
I think their personality, too. I mean, I think most people want to socially
they stay away
distant.
from the quads. Sorry. Love you, quads.
We love you, quads. JK, LOL.
That's a lot of that's going to come from this whatever the university's recommending, and that's my take on it. The guidelines in terms of social distancing and what we're able to do and take part in, I really, that's going to kind of come from here, up here, and then it's going to trickle down into this is what we are allowed to do with you guys. So unfortunately, that's one of those where we don't really quite have an answer yet. I mean, it's going to come down to the university taking the recommendations from the state and Department of Ed and all that stuff, and then going from there. So
yeah, I'm also seeing a lot of comments about going green zone and all that stuff. I live in Montgomery and we're in yellow. We're also scheduled to be green. However, after talks with some of the professors at KU, there is a concern because a lot of the professors are in that age range that they can create complications, and they are taking extra precautions because they can, versus high school where there's sort of no, like, you're either going to school or you're not, or going off of web distance learning and everything. So, you know, we as a band don't have to go to an away game. That's not a required thing. Whereas a high schooler, you know, goes to school to learn, again, unless it's off of video. So I really hope, I mean, trust me, there's no one who wants normalcy more than us.
We want it. We want to be in person teaching and working through stuff and having a season, because
if there's a decision made by KU administration to allow clubs to meet on campus before fall, will we be able to meet? That will be completely up to Dr. Neuenschwander and the music department. It would be my assumption, don't hold me to this, but it'd be my assumption that if athletics go back early, chances are we would, because we're considered an athletic band. But I'm not going to put words in anyone's mouth because that's a total assumption. So,
and I think there would probably be guidelines. I don't think it would be coming back like we knew it when, you know, last season. So there'd probably be guidelines and specifications of what we can do. But I mean, I'm in agreement with Matt. Like, if the football team comes back, athletics comes back, we would assume that we could come back as well and begin our instruction. But that's just keep an eye out on social media and stuff. And as soon as we know more, Neuenschwander knows more, the band knows more, we'll send it out.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure by state law, schools are allowed to host a football game, and the athletics and the staff of athletics and the instructors are exempt from the 6-foot rule. And I would assume that means the band too. But where it's unclear is, the number of band people, are they included in the total number allowed in the stadium? Or is it, the band plus the total amount, in the stadium? Which at that point we would have to talk about, well, how many people come to a game? Do we do half the band one day and then half the band the next? Do we have Drumline A, Drumline B, and they go different days? Or are we, maybe the Drumline stays the same and then the band switch? So there's so many things we need to work out. But at the end of the day, make sure that you registered for band if you're interested in the upcoming fall, whether or not auditions are over or begun. So you can do that at kumubears.com/drumline. All of the instructions for auditioning. That's step 1, in fact. Will Kenny be coming back for quads? So if in fact we have a season that involves all of our techs coming back, which we're rooting for, he has showed interest in coming back. Yes, he wrote part of Moons Over My Flammy, but I will admit that I wrote the other half of it because he gave up. He just the beats are just too hot for Kenny. What can I say? No, he has a lot. He has a child and.
Did he make one section like really hard too, and you were like, "Whoa"?
maybe not. So yeah, to answer your question, he has shown interest in coming back, and we most definitely want him back as well. In Diddle Thing and Rob's roles, are we considered the check to be played in every rep? So that's a good question. So for returning vets, that last year in the beginning of the roles, we did maybe 4 times through 1 in, a 2 in, a 3 in, a 4 in, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 in, right, as a check. And then we went into the exercise simply by me calling out, exercise. This year, whatever is on the page is the rep of the warm-up period. There is no go 4 times, go 6 times. There is no, okay, wait for me to tell you to go on to the exercise. The exercise is exactly what's on the page, 2 times through the check, and then going into the exercise. Hopefully that makes sense to some of you. All right, well, it looks as though we're out of questions. So we are on a slight delay. So if there's anything else that you want to chat about, we're into it. I'll delay a little bit. I'll see some of the... Danielle says, literally, I come to band camp for my chicky nuggies. The amount of times we were subjected to the chicky nuggies. Man, Danielle's making up for her quietness in the previous one. Are we supposed to wear a mask in 100-degree weather? All part of the same
Good
bucket.
question.
It's a very good question. Yo, I just bought a really baller mask, by the way. I look like Bane, like from Batman, and like with the bald head and everything. It like really looked tough. So I suggest go on Wish and get yourself a 59-cent like Bane
Is
mask.
that the thing you ordered?
Oh yeah. It's taken like 8 weeks to get here, and it may show up and be like, you know, Hello Kitty or something.
Oh man.
Greg, do you want to come around and say hi? I'm sure the folks at home want to see some Greg Malleus because Greg has a beard now.
Greg is here. He's got a beard.
Holy cow!
He's been a
Sup, guys?
huge help.
Greg with a beard, love it. Greg needs a haircut. I was about to say, so do we all, but it's not entirely. Matt throwing shade. Jakin says, how are you guys? I'm actually doing really well. This COVID has been really busy for me at work. As you can imagine, this kind of live stream is more of a fun thing and a extension of what I do for you guys. But a lot of schools, a lot of organizations has needed some form of live stream. We've live streamed graduations, so we've been really busy. How about you, Danny?
It takes me 4 hours to mow my grass with a push mower right now.
Danny just moved.
Yeah, I moved just outside of Kutztown not too long ago, and I spend most of my time trying to mow my grass.
Joey D says, Greg looks like a ginger paw. I don't know. Greg's not very ginger, though. He's more... Greg has a beard. Plug your TikTok. I do have a TikTok. I only updated a couple times. There's a snare solo I wrote
yeah.
that's actually written out. That wasn't improv. That was written out. So you can find me on there.
Yeah, he does more tricks and stuff than I think he's ever done.
I don't write stick tricks. And I think Joe Exotic, if he watched the snare drum solo, Joe Exotic would want some serious stick tricks. Am I not? Am I wrong? Like,
Yeah.
he would want
You put him in
gaudy snare drum. So that's kind of what I tried to
Yeah, if you haven't checked
do.
it
The
out.
Bane voice when I get it. Well, hello. I'm never gonna do that again. Plug your TikTok. We need a Danny and Matt podcast. Okay, well, so we brought this up in the. We're just killing time now, in all honesty. Hopefully, the camera doesn't die because in the last podcast, the camera died. And a non-camera dying webcast is sort of the premium channel, right? So that's the paid channel. So if you haven't paid your monthly membership to the Danny and Matt KU webcast, then chances are the camera's going to go out. So if you...
Sorry, you weren't
It's
supposed
late.
to see that.
We've been doing it.
We've been here for a long
Been
time.
here for a while. Seriously, we would love to hear feedback. So any vets in the 2020 membership group or in the Drumline Percussion group, feel free to hand out some, dish out your worst. Any comments, feedback on how things are going. If this is helpful and this is a way to like get everyone together and hang out, maybe we do this again on a not full-blown nationwide.
Might end up being a
worldwide.
sectional where we just do a live sectional and play through some of the warm-ups together.
Yeah, like a chop session.
Yeah,
Like
might end up being
maybe we just play through and I'll suck and play through, but like that's all part of it. Like we're all growing together and stuff like that. So we could do a chop session. We can just hang out and talk. We can even just set up a Zoom and hang out and chat. Maybe we do this again and bring section leaders in or miscellaneous guests and they can talk about that. I don't know. I'm just spitfiring, but I'm just Tyler, are you Spitfire, by the way? We've been unsure
Is
if
that
that's
Tyler
Casey or
Casey?
Tyler.
We don't know which one it is. And whoever it is, they're probably going to lie and say it's the other person, which is smart.
We got a couple more questions.
Oh, we have more questions?
Have more questions. All right. See, delaying helps. When is the next live stream? The next live stream is next week, Saturday, I believe the 27th. Yes, Saturday the 27th at 7 p.m. Danielle, our very own Danielle, will be talking all things cymbals. Everything everyone wants to know about cymbals and more. I'll be there with her, and we'll be doing like a kind of
Co-host thing,
moderator kind of situation. It'll be the format's a little different for that one because there's just
We're still working
much,
some of that out too.
There's just so much information. So even if you don't play cymbals, like you should totally come hang out and blindside our chat.
I do want to put a pitch in there to spread the word about our YouTube channel, because I think we're at 91 subscribers, and we need 100, and then we can have a nice name instead of all the random letters and stuff like that.
Yeah, as of earlier today, we were at 91 or 2 subscribers.
You guys can help pitch that.
If we get 100 subscribers, we can actually have youtube.com/KU Drumline, and it'll be a lot easier to advertise this kind of stuff.
A lot easier to advertise, easier for you guys to find it if you need to for some reason in a quick So, and we just need a handful more to hit that 100 mark. So if you guys can push it out to a few people, that would be great.
Yeah. Also, if we do these live stream and you click notification or whatever, you'll get notified when we do this. I'm seeing a delay, so I keep seeing me wiggle around. It's really distracting. I'm sorry. Okay, we have another question. Since the bass audition is being done on a snare pad, how is that going to translate to you guys looking at the technique? I don't know, Greg. Why don't you come over here and tell us? Listen, it's yes, two things. First of all, unless you have a bass pad, it's going to be really hard to tell. So if you get creative and you take your pad and make it vertical and you play this way, or you're even better than that and you get 2 of the same pads so your timbres are the same.
I've seen people take 2 pads and put them on a door. And then they open the door in their room and they're playing on the. Now the issue with that is you got to somehow secure the door, but you could probably do it on a wall if you just don't break things.
Yeah, the bigger issue is that when you have a vertical pad, we can't see both hands unless it's from the front view, and then we can't see the wrist turn from the side. So it gets a little dicey, and that's the unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we can't view you in real time because that's why we sit in our.
We can. We sit in different seats.
We sit in different seats. We're
so
looking
we have
at
different
things.
angles.
So
of different...
it is what it is. We're trying to accommodate everyone. So hopefully it's not a total cop out. But what I would say is that this technique is basically the same, only with your thumbs up. For those of you who saw the front ensemble, you know that the tube mallet grip. Would you say the thumbs are talking to each other?
Friends.
They're friends.
Hello,
friend. And so, when you take that and then turn your wrist this way, your thumbs are on top. So I would reach out to us or Greg. I'm sure we'll make his contact information available if you have any questions regarding specific bass technique. But again, one of those things that when we're in the flesh, we're here, we're all in the same place at the same time, we'll be able to review that kind of thing. Another fantastic question that I forgot to mention. Where can we find the audio files? Now, I made a lot of play-along audio files. So they are all located in the 2020 Kutztown University Marching Unit Membership Interest Group on Facebook. So if you're not already on that Facebook group, whether you're a vet, a new person, incoming student, whatever, definitely 100% add yourself to that group because that's going to have the most up-to-date information that we push out, in addition to our Instagram, which is KU_Drumline, and also KUMUbears.com. So all those sound files we're providing to members only. We're not making them available to the public. So it's on there. After this webcast, if we haven't already, we'll make sure we repost that link.
Get it out there.
Get it out there and pin it to the top. Veterans will repost it in the existing group.
And I just want to comment on that, use them. I'm glad that question came up, and those audio files, I mean, it's being a person on the side of things that has to extract those files for my purposes, for his purposes, it takes time to extract them at different tempos with different, it's a process. So please use them. I know Matt makes a lot more than I do, but use those to help you. They're key.
Nate says, how many likes on TikTok for Matt to shave? 2 mil. Ring that bell. Hit that bell. Danielle, this is pretty good. Danielle can't promise that her webcast will be as entertaining as ours. Listen, it's going to be hard to beat. And in fact, she hasn't played cymbals in a while. So
You'll do fine, Danielle. You're a professional.
she'll be all right. Greg, any more questions that we have?
When do auditions need to be done by?
Auditions are due July 18th at 11:59 p.m., not a moment late. Yeah, so July 18th by midnight, we're accepting auditions. As I mentioned, make sure your file is one long file with all of your requirements in one file. That simulates the whole audition experience.
And don't play in front of a window because
we talked about that.
I know,
and also on the Drumline website, again, kumubears.com/drumline, you'll find a 2020 KUMU Percussion Audition Requirements PDF. I highly recommend you read that. It's something that like you could very easily skim over because you're like, oh, moon flams. I want to play some moon flams. But in this document, it outlines everything for every section. There are instructions. There are submission guidelines. There's good and bad examples of what to submit, what not to submit. And it also has instructions on uploading your video, which we will be doing through YouTube. So make sure you have some sort of YouTube account. Upload it as a non-listed. That's important so the world can't see your audition. Only anyone who sees or anyone that you make your link available to.
Jenna, your question's good. She said, when will we hear back about auditions? So they're due the July 18th. We don't have a timeline yet in terms of getting it back to you because some of that right now is up in the air. We will meet as a staff and review everything, and then we come up with a plan. Some of that might be dependent on what what comes from athletics and KU and New Instructional in terms of what we need to do membership-wise. So the sad part of my story is we're not entirely sure when we'll be able to let you know, because it might, it depends. Are we taking, like we did last year, a full drumline? Are we doing a drumline A and a drumline B? Not necessarily meaning A is better than B, but do we need 2 drum lines because of what we have to field on the show? And that might split up our decision of where we place people. So, I mean, some of that's to be determined.
Paul says, when are we getting KU Drumline daily vlogs? When we start getting paid to do this, I guess. So Yamaha and Vic Firth and Sabian, feel free to reach out for some corporate sponsorships so we can keep it going.
This is all on our own time at the moment.
Yeah. Also, something to think about and maybe something for you guys to brainstorm if we were to continue this kind of format, maybe more people or whatever. What topics do you want to hear if we were to do this again? What's of interest other than things that, obviously we all want to know answers to questions that me and Danny don't have at this exact moment. But, is it worth it to, when an email blast goes out and New says, Dr. Neuenschwander, we refer to him as New, when new information circulates, is it worth having a fireside chat? Is it worth reaching out and talking about, oh, here's the options we're proposing. What do you guys think? So, we want you guys to have a good experience. We want to have a good experience too. And I think there's a balance there between what can we do for the university? What can we do for athletics? How do we make ourselves better as musicians and people and players? And what can we do to push KU or KUMU percussion forward? KUDL Cuddle merch ideas for the season. Oh, we're diving in. We're getting in there. Will we be doing another video like we did for the show book last year? So for some of the For some of you who were here early enough to witness some of the pre-show material from performances from last year, you might have noticed like a fancy multi-cut video. I called it just a performance video of our show. I'm 100% down for doing that. I think it's a good keepsake for you guys, or for the people who marched the show. It's also a good way to promote for future years and this kind of material. So I'm down for that. But every member has to be into it.
Yeah,
we can't do it without everyone there.
We had everyone committed last year, and that's what it needs to be. It needs to be all in. So we're definitely down for doing something like that again, as long as
So Jenna,
we're all in.
sorry to interrupt, but Jenna says topic idea, marching health. That's a good one. There's actually an Instagram account called Marching Health, I think. And they go over stretches and things that you need to be aware of when you're on the marching field, because it's a physical activity. And when we're in the middle of a show, you can't be passing out because the drum's heavy, or you're out of breath because you aren't physically your best physical self. Okay, so that's a good idea. Can we get a lot outfit? What do you have in mind for your lot outfit? You want to wear those like Tyrannosaurus Rex costumes?
Who said that?
Blind Fire. Did we ever just decide who Blind
that,
Fire
yeah,
is?
yeah.
Is
Is
that
that Tyler or Casey? It's Tyler.
It's Tyler. Hi, Tyler. You're tall.
He said Adidas joggers and Drumline shirts.
As long as there's, I'm not even answering that question right now. But whatever anyone decides to do, everyone has to look.
Tyler, don't overplay, and then we'll have this conversation.
Adidas joggers and KU Drumline shirts. I mean, that's one thing I do want to point out is that Jakin has worked with the powers that be to get some sweet swag. So if we're going to be losing the summer session, it's important that we
To answer,
talk about that.
yeah, and Jakin has done a great job with that. To answer Alyssa's question, you got to match grip, please. So we want to be able to see the match grip technique on the pad. That's a great question. But if you're trying out for specifically bass drum, make sure it's a match grip
Hi,
approach.
Alyssa.
That's a great question. Thank you.
Yeah, bass drum quads matched, and as I mentioned, your angle is going to be a little more 45 degree versus snare is going to be a little further out. All right. Well, I think we're a little overstaying our welcome. We're pushing 9 o'clock, so yeah. Thanks for tuning in. This was a great time. The camera didn't go out this time, so that's good.
Sweet.
I guess you paid for the higher end membership. So yeah, tune in next week when Danielle goes over cymbal technique. And again, I highly recommend tuning in, even if you don't know anything about cymbals, or even if you're not interested in becoming a cymbal player. It rounds out our percussion experience.
And it's such an art. I mean, the cymbal playing there's an art to it, and it's fascinating to like see the technique and the approach to all the different sounds they can get. Mm-hmm. So from making yourself better and understanding the whole drum line and percussion approach, it's recommended you come check it out, watch it.
Yeah. So we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in, and auditions July 18th by midnight.
Thanks, everyone.
Good luck, and we'll see you then.